teachers and trainers, professionals and professors, respected doctors and ministers, the most honorable present Prime Minister and Dr. Narendra Modi ji, friends, those who are listening and learning today, it is very nice time, nice section of listening about this holy festival. Our Indian land is known as the land of festivals. We celebrate every day as a day of celebration, as a day of festival. It is only the Indian land where there are numberless festivals because of its unity in diversity. There are many varieties on the basis of culture, custom, language. Numberless variations are there. But every day is full of colors. Today it is a special day. We celebrate as the day of meditation. How the words of God, how the lords of the God celebrate. Today it is a great history behind the celebration. Everyone, our heart is the seat of God, and we celebrate this day as an immortal day of the believer, devotee, follower, Bhakt Prahlad, who was the ardent believer of the God's words and meditation, and there was a superb blessings and grace. What a great teaching, knowledgeable and powerful for the recreation, reconstruction of our society and nation. This day provide us new thinking, new thought, new nation. Really, it is the day of congratulations and celebrations. The 7 deadly sins, according to Mahatma Gandhi, are wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, knowledge without character, commerce without morality, science without humanity, religion without sacrifice, and politics without principle. When a child is born, who rejoices, who rejoices, the parents, relatives, and friends. But who cries? The child. However, when we die, it should be the other way around. We should be rejoicing and have the satisfaction that we made a contribution to the world and left the world a little better place than we found it. Let the world cry that it has lost a good soul and become poorer. We were not just takers, we were also givers. Hindu philosophy believes that when good people pass away, they don't die, they only depart. Their names live on forever through their good deeds. Think of the last time you heard a eulogy as people pay their respects. The most common things talked about are the little acts of kindness performed by the person during his lifetime. Little acts of kindness don't go unnoticed. In fact, they are remembered a lot more after a person is gone. That is the time people realize how much those little acts of kindness mean to them. No person was ever honored for what he received. Honor has been the reward for what he gave. How do we judge our value system? How do we put our value system to the test? I believe there are only two tests. The ultimate test is called the mama test. Whenever you are doing, whatever you are doing, wherever and with whomever, at home or at work, alone or with someone. If values are in question, ask yourself, if my mama were to see me doing what I am doing right now, would she be proud of me and say, "Atta boy," or would she hang her head in shame? Your values would be clarified rather quickly. If you passed the mama test and failed all other tests, you have passed. If you failed the mama test and passed all other tests, you have failed. This is worth repeating. Think about it. Whenever you need value clarification, ask yourself, if my mama were to see me doing whatever I am doing, would she proud? Would she be proud of me and say, "Atta boy"? Or would she hang her head in shame? The clouds will clear rather quickly and you will get your answer easily. If the mama test doesn't do it, I have another test called the Baba test. Whenever you are doing, whatever you are doing, wherever and with whomever, at home or at work, alone or with someone, If values are in question, ask yourself, if my children were to see me doing what I am doing right now, would I want them to see it or would I be embarrassed? Again, the clouds will clear rather quickly and you will get your answers. If these two tests don't clarify a person's values, then that person is no longer a human being and has no conscience left. How does your value system change? With constant exposure, what is intolerable becomes acceptable and translates into involvement. And all through the transition process, justification keeps taking place. Our nation provides values, spiritual, social, and it provides worldly peace to that personalities, those who are involving to recreate our nation. Really, they are praiseworthy, admirable, and appreciable. Our nation never leave us in solitude or lonely place. There are many colors in this world that can be celebrated with a new thought and imagination. What changes we feel in our life? We talk of the younger generation. When will they end? What about their value system? Before we point a finger at them, let's evaluate who is to blame. We ought to remember that values are not hereditary. They are learned. We need to get our priorities right. What we do for a living versus what we do for a living versus what we do with a living. Money is not the payoff for every kind of work. Parents bring up the children with no paycheck in mind. Many people have lots of money, but they are very poor. Our objective ought to be both to have money and be rich. When money talks, it doesn't always talk sense, and truth remains silent. The most unfortunate part of life is when people plan to get money without earning. It is easier to make money and harder to keep it. The best and most beautiful thing in the world cannot be seen or even touched. they must be felt with the heart. Hard work teaches a person the value of money. That is why it is important that parents teach their children this lesson. I feel sorry for the younger generation who inherits money without value, without lessons and guidance. They often equate everything with money. They think everything can be bought and sold. Of course, this is not true. People who have values have no price tag, and neither do they value themselves. It is priceless. Character. The movie Indecent Proposal brings out the point rather clearly. One act of adultery was worth a quick $1 million. People want to be an overnight success at the cost of their conscience, and it still doesn't work because true values are prices. True values are priceless. The moment a price is set on values, the values lose their value. No possible gain can make up for that loss. It is good to have money and the things it can buy. But in the process of acquiring money, we don't want to lose the things that money can't buy. Money can only buy what money can buy. And in fact, the most precious things are those that money just can't buy. What money won't buy. The most precious things in life, money just can't buy. It is not uncommon to hear that everyone has a price. People who talk that language are really up for sale themselves. People with character, integrity, and the right values are not for sale. Money will buy amusement but not happiness, a bed but not sleep, books but not wisdom, a cloak but not more time, companions but not friends, finery but not beauty, food but not appetite, a house but not a home, medicine but not health, a ring but not a marriage. So, what a controversial and adversarial concepts of the life that we observe and examine in our practical life. There are two kinds of tragedies in life. One is not getting what we want. A creed for those who have suffered. I asked God for strength that I might achieve. I was made weak that I might learn humbly to obey. I asked for health that I might do greater things. I was given infirmity that I might do better things. I asked for riches that I might be happy. I was given poverty that I might be wise. I asked for power that I might have the praise of men. I was given weakness that I might feel the need of God. I asked for all things that I might enjoy life. I was given life that I might enjoy all things. I got nothing I asked for, but everything I had hoped for. Almost despite myself, my unspoken prayers were answered. I, among all men, am most richly blessed. Getting what we want. When our value system is not clear, getting what we want can be a bigger tragedy. The story of King Midas says it all. The Midas touch. We all know the story of the greedy king named Midas. He had a lot of gold, and the more he had, the more he wanted. He stored all the gold in his wallets and used to spend time every day counting it. One day, while he was counting, a stranger came from nowhere and said he would grant him a wish. The king was delighted and said, I would like everything I touch to turn to gold. The stranger asked the king, are you sure? The king replied, yes. So the stranger said, starting tomorrow morning with the sun rays, you will get the golden touch. The king thought he must be dreaming. This couldn't be true. But the next day, when he woke up, he touched the bed, his clothes, and everything turned to gold. He looked out of the window and saw his daughter playing in the garden. He decided to give her surprise and thought she would be happy. But before he went to the garden, he decided to read a book. The moment he touched it, it turned into gold and he couldn't read it. Then he sat to have breakfast, and the moment he touched the fruit and the glass of water, they turned to gold. He was getting hungry and he said to himself, I can't eat and drink gold. Just about that time, his daughter came running and he hugged her and she turned into a gold salute. There were no more smiles left. The king bowed his head and started crying. The stronger who gave the wish came again and asked the king if he was happy with his golden touch. The king said he was the most miserable man. The stranger asked, what would you rather have? Your food and loving daughter, or lumps of gold and her golden statue? The king cried and asked for forgiveness. He said, I'll give up all my gold. Please give me my daughter. The stranger, I'll give up all my gold. Please give me my daughter back, because without her, I have lost everything worth having. The stranger said to the king, you have become wiser man. You have become wiser than before, and he reversed the spell. He got his daughter back in his arms, and the king learned a lesson that he never forget for the rest of his life. What is the moral of the story? One is distorted values lead to tragedy. Number two is sometimes getting what you want may be a bigger tragedy than not getting what you want. Number three is unlike the game of Soccer, where players can be substituted, the game of life allows no substitutions or replays. We may not get a second chance to reverse our tragedies as the king did. How would you like to be remembered? About 100 years ago, a man looked at the morning newspaper and, to his surprise and horror, read his name in the obituary column. The newspapers had reported the death of the wrong person by mistake. His first response was shock. Am I here or there? When he regained his composure, his second thought was to find out what people had said about him. The obituary read, King dies. And also he was the merchant of death. This man was the inventor of dynamite, and when he read the words merchant of death, he asked himself a question. Is this how I am going to be remembered? He got in touch with his feelings and decided that this was not the way he wanted to be remembered. From that day on, he started working toward peace. His name was Alfred Nobel, and he is remembered today by the great Nobel Prize. Just as Alfred Nobel got in touch with his feelings and redefined his values, we should step back and do the same. What is your legacy? How would you like to be remembered? Will you be spoken well of? Will you be remembered with love and respect? Will you be missed? It is the little things that make a big difference. There was a man taking a morning walk at the beach. He saw that morning tide came to hundreds of starfish, and when the tide receded, then they were left behind, and with the morning sun rays they would die. The tide was fresh and the starfish were alive. The man took a few steps, picked one and threw it into the water. He did that repeatedly. Right behind him there was another person who couldn't understand what this man was doing. He caught up with him and asked, "What are you doing? There are hundreds of starfish. How many can you help? What difference does it make?" This man did not reply, took 2 more steps, picked up another one, threw it into the water and said, "It makes a difference to this one." What difference are we making? Big or small? It does not matter. If everyone made a small difference, we would end up with a big difference, wouldn't we? Is your life worth saving? A boy was drowning in a river and he shouted for a help. A man passing by jumped in the river and saved the boy's life. As the man was leaving, the boy said, "Thank you." The man asked, "For what?" The boy replied, "For saving my life." The man looked into the boy's eyes and said, "Son, make sure when you grow up that your life was worth saving." It is time to think. This is a wake up call. Success without fulfillment is meaningless. Unless there is a sense of meaning and purpose, life is empty and unhappy, regardless of how much prestige, money, or degrees a person has. Success begins with developing our personal success philosophy about our health, money, family, society, and values. Without a clearly defined purpose and a philosophy to guide you, life is guided by fantasies. If people have not defined a philosophy of success, they have actually defined a philosophy of failure by default. Sometimes we overlook the things that ought not to be overlooked and don't overlook the things that ought to be overlooked. An integral part of a good value system is commitment. When our value system is clear, it becomes a lot easier to make decisions and commitments. Example, you can't make a commitment to your country by selling secrets to the enemy. You can't keep a friend by revealing to others what he told you in confidence. You can keep a commitment to a job by trying to do as little as possible. Uncapped commitments result in dishonest behavior. I wonder how any relationship, regardless of whether personal or professional, would work if people said something to the effect, "I will try, but I can't commit. I will do it, but don't count on me. I will be there if I can, but don't get your hopes up. I will be there so long as you do well. I will be there so long as you are in good health. I'll stick with you till I find something better." In the following, relationships cannot count and depend on one another. I wonder how anything, parent or child, student or teacher, employer or employee, husband or wife, customer or salesman, friend or friend, the uncertainty could lead to insanity. Our strongest relationships are tied together with the invisible something called commitment. Today, breaking a promise is considered no big deal. All relationships go sour without commitment. Lack of commitment would destabilize relationships and lead to insecurity. No one would know whether they stand with each other. Commitments implies dependability, reliability, predictability, consistency, caring, empathy, a sense of duty, sincerity, character, integrity, loyalty. If one of these ingredients is missing, commitment loses strength. When a person makes a commitment to someone, he is really saying, "You can count on me no matter what, and I will be there when you need me." Unconditional commitment says, My behavior is predictable in an unpredictable future. What makes the future unpredictable? Changes in your life and circumstances. Changes in my life and circumstances. Changes in the external conditions. Regardless of the uncertainty, commitment says, you can count on me. A person who makes a commitment is willing to give up a lot. For what? The answer is pretty clear. The rewards can be priceless. Commitment says, I am willing to sacrifice because I care. I am a person of integrity and you can trust me. I will not let you down. Despite pain, I'll still be there. I'll not be I'll not let you down in good times or in bad times. Commitments Commitment is not like a legal contract which is enforceable. Its foundation is not a signed price. Its foundation is not a signed piece of paper, but character, integrity, and empathy. Commitment does not mean sticking to something when a person has no choice. It means sticking in spite of choices. Without the above ingredients, no one would make a serious, long lasting commitment to others. What makes a commitment worth keeping? It brings predictability, security, personal growth, strong relationships between individuals and community, lasting personal and professional relationships. Even gangsters and crooks are looking for committed supporters. Commitment creates a patch of green in a vast jungle. We call this security in an insecure world. Keeping commitments is worth the effort. Commitment means surrendering our personal wants for another person's needs. Remember and keep in mind, needs are stronger than wants. Commitments act as a glue which bonds relationships. Commitment implies sacrificing fun and willingness to accept sorrow. For example, commitment to friendship implies maintaining confidentiality. Commitment to customer implies giving good service. Commitment to marriage implies fidelity. Commitment to decency implies staying away from vulgarity. Commitment to patriotism implies sacrifice. Commitment to job implies integrity. Commitment to community implies responsibility. Commitment is a sign of maturity. Commitment means not quitting at the first option or sign of problems. Individuals with strong commitments build strong communities. Relationships are based on commitment, not just on closeness and intimacy. A person can be intimate and close and yet not be committed. With changing values, it is even considered good to have uncommitted relationships. Many people are not willing to make commitments because they feel they are not ready for it. However, in the meantime, for years, they keep sharing and using anything and everything of one another. Their pretext is we are still checking out each other before we commit. What are they checking out that they haven't already checked out in a few days or a few months or a few years? In my opinion, they are selfish parasites who are trying to get as much as possible while the going is good. They are not, they are only takers who are liability to society. Many people confuse commitment with confinement. Relationships don't last because of passion and love, but because of commitment and empathy. A commitment implies putting the other person's needs ahead of one. Sometimes good people with the best intentions are faced with conflicting commitments. For instances, a policeman is committed to caring for his wife who is on her deathbed, but all of his he gets an emergency call to handle a situation. At the other end, at the other end of the town, where 10 lives are at stake, what does he do? A surgeon is looking forward to his daughter's graduation. He is committed to this once in a lifetime event with all guests at the function. 20 minutes before the ceremony, he gets an emergency call to operate on an accident victim to save his life. What choice does he have? What choice does he have? Choosing one does not mean lack of commitment to the door, lack of commitment to the other. The process of making a choice between the two commitments would involve priority, responsibility, and duty. Not keeping one not keeping over the other would not make the person feel guilty. Probably, what the surgeon feels like doing is attending his daughter's graduation. It doesn't matter what he feels like. Commitment involves the 11 elements we talked about before, whether we feel like it or not. Keeping commitment shows strength of character. It takes subordinating our desires to the other person's needs, but not his whims and fancies. Needs are essential, whereas desires are infinite. And in case of conflict of needs, one has to prioritize responsibilities and duties. In a relationship such as a marriage, two people are committed to each other. Supposing one develops cancer a year after, should one feel cheated, deprived, resentful, blame the other person for ruining his or her life? That is not commitment, that is just selfishness. The most painful part of commitment is accepting a breach. When it happens, the commitment goes on. If the breach results from an error of commission, however, it needs evaluation. If it is a result of commission, breach of omission can be handled with compassion and forgiveness. Whereas the breach of commission says, you cheat me once, shame on you. You cheat me twice, shame on me. Either way, for one's own self-interest, the answer is forgiveness. As they say, the wounds get healed, but the scars remain. Commitments can rarely be kept without forgiveness. For example, a child may betray his parents, trust by lying or cheating. People avoid making commitments because many times they are living for today. What is our greatest commitment? What if we made a commitment that is wrong or unethical inadvertently, which totally goes against our values and conscience? That is the time to re-evaluate whether or not to go forward. Commitment to values. Loyalties cannot be bought, they are earned. And to whom do we own loyalties? And to whom do we owe loyalties? Is it individuals or organizations? The answer is none of them. We owe loyalties to values. Where the value system is conflicting, people cannot live in the same home, they cannot work in the same organization. When a person makes a commitment of loyalty to either an individual or organization, what is he really saying? He's saying, I stand by you because I believe in what you believe in. Person I am committed to, be it a leader, spouse, employer. Employee becomes a spy for an enemy country. Do I continue my support because I committed earlier? Absolutely not. I'm not committed to support unethical and illegal behavior. Unkept commitments lead to broken homes, abandoned children, poor relationships, high stress levels, guilt, unfulfilled life, loss of business, isolation, depression. Make a commitment and stay committed. Ethics. Bad circumstances are not excuses for making bad choices and leading poor lives. Values and ethics are not just designed for good times, but also to prevent bad times. They are like the laws of the land, which you need when people are good, and you need even more to protect them from the bad. Most choices are not ethical choices. For example, what clothes to buy or what TV to get are personal choices based on what is more appropriate. They are not ethical choices. For some people, the right choice may be Panasonic instead of Sony for affordability. Personal choices are subjective, not objective. And even though these are not ethical issues, they certainly involve responsibility. Ethical choices reflect objectivity between right and wrong. That is why our conscience hurts when making an unethical choice and does not hurt when making a wrong personal choice. Choices are personal because the person makes it, but the righteousness or wrongness does not change from person to person. Just like in a math test, we take it and what answer they give varies from person to person, but what makes it right is not the choice, but the independence of the correct answer. Of course, ethical choices are not always like making choices in math. Just like being a nice person is not the same as being a good and ethical person. A person could be socially nice yet be a cheat and a liar. That makes him nice yet unethical. Niceness reflects social acceptability. Nice does not mean good. In fact, most of our today are based on our desire for convenience, comfort, and pleasure. Our feeling, do what feels good. It is good for you. The criteria is to feel good rather than doing what is responsible. Social fads and ads. Everyone else is doing it. So should I. It is a common belief that ethics and ethical choices are confusing. The big question is to who? Only to those with unclear values. Situational ethics. Those who believe that ethics cannot be generalized but vary with every situation, come up with justification, and keep changing their ethics from situation to situation and person to person. This is called situational ethics. This is ethics of conveniences rather than conviction. Benchmarks. Why do we have standards? They are measured. 1 meter in Europe is 1 meter in Asia. 1 kilogram of flour is 1 kilogram of flour wherever you go. People who do not want to adhere to any moral standards keep changing the definition of morality by saying nothing is right or wrong. Your thinking makes it so. You put the arms on interpretation rather than on their behavior. They feel my behavior is okay. Your interpretation was messed up. For example, Hitler could have believed he was right. But the big question is, was he right? Giving money to the hungry for food is right, but at the same time giving money to the buy drugs is not right. The generalization sets the benchmark. The exception is the situation. For example, murder is wrong. That is a general statement and generalized truth and ethical standard, unless it is in self-defense. This doesn't say that it is okay to murder if the weather is good or if you feel like it. A person's interests, other than his job, tells much about him. The way a person spends his leisure time reflects on his performance at work. A drug addict, if running short of money, would be more likely to embezzle than a person who is not an addict. Our standard of ethics is revealed by the advisors we hire, the suppliers we pick, and the buyers we deal with. Opinions may vary from culture to culture, but values such as fairness, justice, integrity, and commitment are universal and eternal. They have nothing to do with culture. Never has there been a time when society has not respected courage. Ethics and justice involve the following: empathy, fairness, compassion for the injured, the larger interest of society. Just because more people agree on something doesn't make it right. For example, if 10 perverts agree on a sadistic act to hurt an innocent, does that make it right? No. Just like the laws of gravity, ethics are pretty universal. Just as freedom without discipline leads to destruction, similarly, society without a set of principles destroys itself. If values were so subjective, no criminals should be in jail. Why have a police force? A society becomes good or bad based on the ethical values of individuals. And what gives society its strength is ethical values. Some people enjoy taking drugs. It makes them feel good. Does that make it good? People who believe in the therapy of relativity actually get stuck in their own paradox. They say everything is relative. That is the absolute truth. It is self-control, self-contradictory. The distinction between right and wrong, dishonesty and honesty presupposes their existence. Changing terminology does not change the meaning, just like changing the levels does not change the contents. People are changing moral values by giving new names, and it is glamoured by the media. Liars are called extroverts with an imagination. When Michael Sowan, the president of Columbia University, resigned in 1993, a reporter asked him if there was any task left incomplete. Yes, replied Sowan. It sounds complacent. It sounds complacent, but there is really only one. He referred to the lack of instructions in ethics. The average undergraduate, however, gets no training in these areas. Most educators are afraid to touch this subject. Ethics are usually left to be addressed by parents. The result is that in this country, young people who need moral and ethical training more than ever are getting less than ever. Morals and ethics are not a religion. They are logical, sensible principle of good conduct that we need for a peaceful society. Ethics and legacy. Most will agree that legality and ethics are not the same thing. What may be ethical may or may not be legal, and vice versa. For example, an insurance salesperson more concerned with getting a larger commission as opposed to selling the most suitable policy sells the wrong kind of policy to the prospective client. This may be legal but unethical. A young executive is driving over the speed limit, trying to reach the hospital with his bleeding child in the back seat of his car. Hardly anyone would question the ethics of breaking the law in this situation. It would be unethical not to get medical help to save the kid's life, even if it meant breaking the law. Legality establishes minimum standards, whereas ethics and values go beyond those standards. Ethics and values are about fairness and justice. It is not about pleasing or displeasing people. It is about respecting people's needs and rights. Purpose of life. There are many kinds of desire. Desire for success, desire to do one's duty even at the cost of pleasure, desire for purpose, something worth dying for which gives meaning to life. What good is it if you give the whole world and lose your conscience? A purposeless life is a living death. What is your purpose? Do you have one? Purpose brings passion. Find or create a purpose and then pursue it with passion and perseverance. Every day we need to ask ourselves the question, am I getting any closer to my purpose in life? Am I making this a better place to live? If the answer is no, then I have just wasted a day of my life. Life will reward us in proportion to our contribution. The earlier we find a purpose in life, the better it is. It appears that the greatest challenge comes in the unending search for the purpose of life. Not only as an individual, but for our families, organizations, and country. Once our purpose and values are clear, conflicts between self interest and social obligations find a moral balance between themselves. We become aware of when to take a stand. That is the time we start making the right decisions for the long term gain rather than making the wrong decisions for short term gain. Wisdom and maturity lead to greater understanding of major issues. Study as if you were to live forever. Live as if you were to die tomorrow. Who told it? Mahatma Gandhi. We cannot help ourselves without helping others. We cannot enrich our lives without enriching others. We cannot prosper without bringing prosperity to others. Janet Cole once said, "Show me a person who is content with mediocrity, and I'll show you a person destined for failure." Life is not a spectator sport. We cannot sit back and watch things happen. We need to find a purpose in order to make life meaningful and then strive to achieve that purpose. Living with a purpose. All of us are put on this planet for a purpose. We are part of a big picture, but very few people discover their purpose in life. Most of us just exist and keep counting our days rather than making our days count. Dr. Albert Einstein was once asked, "Why are we here?" He replied, "If the universe is in accident, we are accidents. If there is meaning in the universe, there is meaning in us also." And he added, "The more I study physics, the more I am drawn towards metaphysics. I would rather fail in a course that will ultimately succeed than succeed in cause that would ultimately fail." There is a story behind it. Where do we learn our values from? I recently read a story of a high school values clarification class conducted by a teacher in a Teaneck, New Jersey. A girl in the class had found a purse containing $1,000 and returned it to its owner. The teacher asked for the class's reaction. Every single one of her fellow students concluded the girl had been foolish. Most of the students contended that if someone was careless, they should be punished. When the teacher was asked what he said to the students, he responded, "Well, of course, I didn't say anything. If I come from the position of what is right and what is wrong, then I am not their counselor. I can't impose my views." If we do not learn values from our parents and teachers, who do we learn them from? And when they don't teach us values, we pick them up by default from television and other such undesirable sources. No wonder society gets messed up. The teacher, such as in example above, is not only irresponsible with distorted values but does not deserve to be teaching our kids. Winning versus winners. What is the difference between winning and being a winner? Winning is an event. Being a winner is a spirit. Winners have kept winning in perspective based on their value system. 3 inspirational winners. Inspirational winners. Olympics is a lifetime event. Lawrence Lemix stopped racing in a yak race to help a fellow competitor who was in trouble. The whole world was watching. His priority of safety for other people's lives was greater than his desire to win. Even though he did not win the race, he was a winner. He was honored by kings and queens all over the world because he kept the spirit of the Olympics alive. I heard the story of Reuben Gonzalez when he was in the final match of the racquetball tournament. This was an important event and he was playing for the word little. In the final game at match point, Gonzalez played a super shot to save point. The referee and the linesman both confirmed that the shot was good and he was declared the winner. But Gonzalez, after a little pause and hesitation, turned back to shake his opponent's hand and said, the story was faulty. As a result, he lost the serve and eventually lost the. Everyone was stunned. Who could imagine that a player with everything officially in the favor, with winning in his pocket, would disqualify himself and lose? When asked why he did it, Gonzalez replied, it was the only thing to do in order to maintain my integrity. He lost the match, yet he was a winner. A group of salespeople left town for a meeting and told their families they would be back home Friday evening for supper. But as with meeting the way they are, one thing leads to another and they didn't finish on time. They were delayed and had to catch a flight. They came to the airport just at the last minute with tickets in hand and rain, hoping the plane hadn't departed. While running, one of them hit a table and on the table was a fruit basket. All the fruit got scared and bruised, but they didn't have time to stop. They kept running and made it to the plane, and all of them breathed a sign of relief that they had made it, except one. He got in touch with his feelings, got up, said good boy to his friends, and went. What he saw made him glad that he came out. He went to the table that was knocked down, and behind the table was a 10-year-old blind girl who was selling the fruits to make a living. He said, I hope we haven't ruined your day. He pulled out 10 pounds from his pocket. He handed it to her, said, this will take care of the fruits, and he left. The girl couldn't see what was going on. All she could hear was the footsteps leaving. As the footsteps faded away, she shouted from behind, are you good? He missed his flight, but was he a winner? You bet. One can be a winner without a medal, and one can be a loser with a medal if winning is not kept in perspective. Thanks, listeners and learners, on this holiday of Holi. Nice meeting, nice watching all of you. Thanks. Congratulate all of you.